So welcome guys to the continuation of the erythropoiesis video. We have done all the production, we have done the site for production, we have done the stages. Now we are talking about the factors necessary for erythropoiesis. So these are factors needed to allow the production of red blood cell made possible. Because we did the stages in the last video, so we had to break the video into these parts so that you could watch it differently. So we are doing the factors now necessary for erythropoiesis, because the development and maturation of red blood cell requires some factors which was classified into three. So for a red blood cell to mature, because the last one was reticulocyte, which is immature red blood cell, and the last one is matured red blood cell. But before a red blood cell gets to be matured, it has to pass through these three factors. The first factor is the general factor, second one is the maturation factor, the third one is factor necessary for hemoglobin formation. Because the way I paste this video, I paste it into first of all, we did the general blood, followed by we talked about the blood cells. Now we are doing erythropoiesis, formation of red blood cell. So when we form red blood cell, we'll now do the red blood cell itself, which is OBC. So I made sure I paste the video in that way so that you know it step by step. So the next one after this one, after red blood cell, we'll now do hemoglobin. So with that, it tends to be easier for you to get it. So the first one we're talking about is the general factors. So in the general factors now general factors that are necessary for what erythropoiesis involves, they are hormones presently, or proteins, which is the erythropoietin, now which is the thyroxine. The next one is the hematopoietic growth factor, and vitamins. So these are hormones. I'll call them hormones and nutritional factors that are needed for erythropoiesis. So we call the general factor erythropoietin, thyroxine, hematopoietic growth factor, and you have vitamins. So picking the first one, the most important now, is the erythropoietin. Mind you, if you reach the part of clinicals where you'll be doing pharmacology too, you'll be looking at all these factors you are seeing now are drugs you can use to treat a patient with any blood condition, or patient with anemia, or you want to increase blood cell formation in the patient. So you could use any of these factors, or any of these proteins or hormones we're about to talk about now. So the first one, which is erythropoietin. So erythropoietin is an important factor. We call it is called erythropoietin, or erythrocyte stimulating factor. That's what we call erythropoietin. So red blood cell protein, erythrocyte protein. Are you getting that? Erythrocyte protein. So that's a red blood cell protein. So it is produced from the peritubular capillaries of the kidney. So that is where erythropoietin is gotten from. But some parts are gotten from the liver, while some parts are gotten from the brain. Do you get it now? So one thing I want you to know, it is otherwise called hemopoietin, or erythrocyte stimulating factor, or erythrocyte protein. Are you getting it now? So where is it gotten from? The peritubular capillaries of the kidney, while some are isolated from where? The liver and the brain. So what stimulates erythropoietin formation? Erythropoietin is always stimulated when there's a low amount of oxygen in the atmosphere during hypoxia. So if a patient is suffering hypoxia, when the oxygen level drops and the patient is no more receiving oxygen, so the body starts to produce erythropoietin. So if the body produces erythropoietin, it will signify or increase the red blood cell formation. From there, that will increase your RBC, and if you increase your RBC, it will then increase your hemoglobin, which will then make you become stable and allow your body fight off the low amount of oxygen. But it should not be for a long time, because being for a long time is quite deadly. So now, what is the action of erythropoietin? Why is it important? Like I said, so the first one is that it promotes the production of pro-erythroblasts from the colony forming unit of erythrocyte of the bone marrow. So remember, when we are breaking down the committed pluripotent hemopoietic stem cells, when we're breaking them down, we said we'll first form what we call the CFUE, which is the colony forming unit of erythrocyte. So if we form the colony forming unit of erythrocyte, we now start with the stages of red blood cell formation, which is pro-erythroblast or pro-nomoblast. So erythropoietin allows for the production of this pro-erythroblast, which we discussed in our last video. So what again does it do? Now it allows the formation of pro-erythroblasts, which converts into pro-erythroblasts to matured RBC. taking through all the steps we have formed. Are you getting now? And also it releases what matured erythrocyte into the blood. So erythropoietin allows the release of matured erythrocyte into the blood, especially in patients that has anemia. So when there's anemia or when the oxygen level drops, erythropoietin is released from the peritubular capillary of the kidney, goes into the bone marrow, squeeze out the production of what blood cells, which is what a red blood cell here. You get it now? So we have done it already. So now, especially in anemia, you see erythropoietin level is high. Why? Because at that particular point our body is trying to increase the number of red blood cells, even though in anemia the red blood cell is low, but at this particular point the red blood cell that is formed here is immature. That is what brings the anemia part there. Now the next one is thyroxine. So thyroxine is released from the thyroid gland, and it is a metabolic hormone, and also it is accelerate the process of erythropoiesis at many levels. Naturally, thyroxine increases the basic metabolic rate. So if it increases the basic metabolic rate, it can also increase the production of erythropoietin or and other nutrients that are needed to increase the red blood cell formation. The next one is hemopoietic growth factors. So hemopoietic growth factors, or you can call them growth inducers. Are you following me? We have talked about erythropoietin, we have talked about thyroxine. I want you to just understand it. You get it now, step by step. I'm breaking it down to you. So I'm just trying to make it shorter and self-explanatory. So if you go to what you are seeing on your screen now, it will be quite easier for you to understand it. So the hemopoietic growth factor, we call it growth inducer. These are growth factors produced from the bone marrow or produced from our stem cells in order to increase or proliferate erythropoiesis or red blood cell formation. Are you getting me now? So they are the one that induces a conversion of uncommitted to committed pluripotent red blood cell. Are you getting me now? So, and they are interleukins. Are you getting me now? Or cytokines. They are interleukins or cytokines. So now, naturally here, interleukins that participate in erythropoiesis are interleukin 3. It is secreted by T cells. We still do WBC. So if you do WBC, you know interleukins, which is secreted by T cells. Interleukin 6, which is secreted by T cells and endothelial cells and macrophages. They are the one that produce interleukin 6. So interleukin 11 is produced by the osteoblast. Osteoblast is needed for bone cell formation. So, and the last one I'll be talking about here is vitamins. So there are so many vitamins that are needed also that contributes to red blood cell formation. We have talked about erythropoietin, we have talked about thyroxine from the thyroid gland, we have talked about hemopoietic growth factor, or you call it growth inducers, that are secreted from the stem cells. You get it now? So they proliferate the production of the committed part of the hemopoietic stem cells. So now the first vitamins we'll be looking at is vitamin B. Very, very important. Its deficiency can cause anemia, peligris, which are skin lesions, diarrhea, weakness, nausea, and dementia. So also vitamin B is very, very important. Yeah, because remember we have the water soluble and we have the fat soluble vitamins, which we'll be talking about later. So vitamin B, C, D, and E are important vitamins that participate in the erythropoietic process because they are donated, and deficiency of them can cause anemia. So they are needed at least in small amount to augment for the red blood cell formation. So vitamins, because each one, vitamin D, absence of it can cause anemia and rickets. So rickets is a bone disease. With absence of vitamin E will cause anemia and malnutrition. Absence of vitamin C will cause anemia and scurvy. You get it now? So absence of vitamin D will cause anemia and peligris. You get it now? So they are very, very important. So we have talked about the general factors already. So all these things also are taken as drugs too. So when you be doing your pharmacology too, you see it there, which is emetics. So when you do your hematics or hemetics, so when you are doing hematics under pharmacology, you see all these drugs there. So the next one is maturation factor. So what are maturation factors? Maturation factors, they are very, very important, especially vitamin B12, intrinsic factor of castor, and folic acid. They are also very, very important in red blood cell formation. You get it now? So vitamin B12, very, very simple. It's very, very important because absence of it can cause pernicious anemia. We're doing anemia later, so absence of it is very, very bad. And The intrinsic factor of castor is present in the gastric mucosa and secreted by the parietal cells, or you can call it the ossetic cells. Are you getting me now? Of the gastric gland. So in the gastric gland, you have the basal cells, you have the ossetic cells of the parietal cells, you have the mucous neck cells, you have a lot of cells there that produce various stuff. So specifically, the parietal or the ossetic cells secrete intrinsic factor of castor. And why is there intrinsic factor of castor alongside HCl? But HCl does its own issue. We'll do it in GIT physiology. But here, the only important one we are looking at is the intrinsic factor of castor. The intrinsic factor of castor is very, very important in absorbing what vitamin B12. So we need it in the small intestine to absorb vitamin B12. So if vitamin B12 is absorbed, it is stored in the liver, and small amounts are stored in the muscle. Are you getting now? So when it is necessary, it is transported to the bone marrow to promote the maturation of red blood cell. So not that it is there as a general factor, it's there to mature, convert it from immature reticulocyte to mature red blood cell. You get it now? So absence of it will cause pernicious anemia. So the last one is folic acid. So folic acid is also important, and absence of it will cause megaloblastic anemia. So they also help in the development process and the maturity. And how do they help in maturity? Folic acid is needed in DNA synthesis. So when there's no folic acid, there's no DNA synthesis of RBC. And when there's no DNA synthesis of RBC, which means there's no matured RBC, there will be immature RBC. And when the body sees immature RBC, there will be hemolytic anemia. So when there's excess megaloblastic anemia, when the body doesn't like it, what happens? It gets rid of it. That's what you call hemolytic anemia. So now we have talked about the maturation factor, which is folic acid, intrinsic factor of castor, and vitamin B12. And we talked about the general factor, which is erythropoietin. You have thyroxine, you have hemopoietic growth factor, and you have vitamins. So put it in your head because of your exams. So the last one is factors necessary for hemoglobin formation. Because when there's absence of hemoglobin, in this case, hemoglobin is the only one that attracts oxygen and sometimes carbon dioxide. So when the oxygen level is high, hemoglobin attracts oxygen and displays CO2. And when the CO2 level is high, it displays oxygen and attracts CO2. So now hemoglobin is very important because it's where oxygen attaches to before it can be offloaded into the tissues. Without hemoglobin, there's no oxygen, and without oxygen, there's hypoxemia. Your tissues will not take oxygen and it will be damaging. So now we have various factors or various substances that are needed for hemoglobin formation. So they are different. We have iron. Iron is very, very important. You have hemoglobin, heme. The heme part of iron is needed for hemoglobin. Are you getting me? Copper is not needed for the absorption of iron. So take it. Iron forms the heme part of hemoglobin, and copper is needed for the absorption of iron. Are you getting me? While cobalt and nickel, they are metals essential for the utilization of iron during hemoglobin formation. So get it. Copper is needed for the absorption. Cobalt and nickel is important for the utilization of the iron. Are you getting me now? While vitamins, which we have discussed also, especially vitamin C, riboflavin, nicotinic acid, and pyridoxine, they are also needed. Are you getting me now? So riboflavin is vitamin B2, nicotinic acid vitamin B3, and pyridoxine vitamin B6. They are important for hemoglobin formation. And the first one which we missed here is is the first class protein and amino acid. The first class protein and amino acids are the one that donate the plasma proteins with a globulin. So heme plus globulin form hemoglobin. You get it now? So the globulin is very, very important. So the globulin are the plasma protein that get fused with iron. Iron is gotten from the diet. So when it gets fused with iron, it forms hemoglobin. So I hope it all made sense to you and you have understood everything we have talked about the factors necessary for hemato or erythropoiesis. So we talked about the general factor, we talked about the maturation factor, and we talked about the factor necessary for hemoglobin formation. So I hope it all made sense to you. You love it and you understand it. So you can ask your question down in the comment section if you don't understand anything. If you want me to make a video for you, also drop it down in the comment section. And If you have to like and subscribe my video, please, because it makes me want to do more videos for you guys. So I love you all. Keep watching my video. We'll move to the next one, which is what? Plasma proteins. Are you getting now? So after plasma proteins, we are going to do RBC diet, talk about the red blood cell in full, so you know it as please for your preclinical examination. Bye bye.